Hi, I'm Carolyn Counas.
And I'm George Counas.
Hi, and welcome to Zesto Audio's R&D facility at Thousand Oaks, California.
The Buyer 120 is a 660 watts a channel stereo amplifier using KT88s and 12 AU7s. It's a Class A amplifier in that when you measure the current that the amplifier draws, it's pretty much the same with full volume or with almost with no volume at all, with no music going through. The way the power supply is designed, it's drawing current out of the wall rather than charging up a bunch of capacitors internally. And what that does is it gives you much more immediate power, immediate pop. The arrows is a different circuit, a different design than the Buyer. And the arrows are 150 watts each for the monoblocks, but they're also Class A. They use 6 KT88s, whereas the Buyer uses 4 KT88s to a channel.
I started with a lot of different designs, and the first one I probably spent 6 months. I'm an artist. My background is I've actually been a painter and an artist, and had a lot of experience in interiors and worked with a lot of architects. And they always had a lot of intent. You know, they build something with intent. And so when we started the business, I said, George, what's with this black box thing? Why is everything a black box? And I like using a lot of different textures and finishes. But I started with a different design, and then the phono stage was noisy. And so we had to change the whole thing, and I had to get this power supply as far away from the tubes as possible. And it forced this asymmetrical design, and it's really inspired by a grand piano. So all of the pieces now have this look of a grand piano, which perfectly allows this asymmetrical kind of electronics to happen. And I have more guys tell me, my wife says, honey, yeah, you can buy that one, you know, because it's no longer in the man cave, the equipment, you know, it's out there.
So all my school and all my background is from England, really. And that's where I worked for Deccan Navigator in England. Had to sign the National Secrets Act and work on radar equipment and all sorts of stuff for them, yeah. You know, I was more interested in the engineering parts of it then, I think, than some of the rest of it. I designed my own tone arm and built it in high school. For instance, a unipivot, I still have it, a unipivot arm, and I put it on a Thorens 125 Mark II. It was very different there. It was you know, I working in a high-end electronics company and then designing these things. I don't think about it, but people pointed out that in England they like transformers.
Oh, yeah.
And we use a lot of transformers in our equipment, as it turns out. Oh. And I don't think about it subliminal, but there's a lot of transformers in our equipment. So I guess that's the only real heritage or whatever from England, from an English sound.
I'm a plein air painter now, so I go out to Malibu and paint the seaside, and I spent, you know, back before the Great Recession, I was doing like 22 shows a year. I also was a printmaker, so I had my own etching press. I consider myself an oil painter now. I get to do it on the weekends, or since Zesto, this is my art project. It's funny how your whole life builds up to, you know, kind of now. All these different skills that you don't think are that exceptional or whatever, but it's this whole kind of building thing, and then at some point they just sort of line up. Okay. And you got to know a lot. You got to know a lot of things. As I said once, you make about thousands of decisions when you own a manufacturing company, And it helps to have a lot of background to help you make those decisions.
Let's start at the beginning. I'm using a Benz Micro Gullwing cartridge and an Audiophone condenser mono, and both of those sound. I like the sound of them, basically. And I have two triplanar tone arms, which I think they're really good. I really the thing about tone arms people miss is the first name is tone arm, and they do affect the tone. I know it sounds silly, but it is so true. You could have a tone arm that adjusts the cartridge perfectly, but the sound of the arm itself is not, you know, there's all sorts of, anyway. And then the turntable, I'm using a Merrill Williams turntable, the 101.3, and arguably it's there's a few turntables I really like, but that's the turntable I'm using right now, and I really like it. I really, really prefer it.
And he's been designing turntables since like 1978, I think. George Merrill. He's a good old boy from Tennessee.
Of course, our electronics, and we use, you know, that throughout, of course. We're using Carter's cables right now, and I love them. I got to tell you, what am I missing? Speakers. I'm using Martin speakers, the Django L. They're not super expensive, but they're, I like the balance in the between the mids and highs. I like the way the crossover works in them, and that you don't hear each driver. You know, it becomes a smooth sound that it's just a smooth overall sound. But you know, they have enough forwardness to it, if you'd like, that when I design something or something doesn't sound right, it really sticks out pretty quickly. I don't think I missed anything. And then still point, we use rack, and I like those guys too. And their racks are wonderful. They sound good. They work very well.
And they're beautiful.
And they're beautiful. So.
Yeah.
All right. So from my point of view, I actually want to get lost in the music, and I don't want to hear the equipment. That's one of the primary things. I want to have it as transparent as possible. I could pick things about musical things and sonic things that really bother me, that from perhaps some people they're not as sensitive to. Just, you know, again, listening to so much music in a very, very controlled environment just gets you super sensitive to it. From a sonic point of view, I want to listen, again, back to the original thing, listen to the music, not have anything in the way if I can. And that also means having as few components in the circuit as possible, because I feel every component adds to or affects the sound in some way. And it's not a cost thing. It's just sonically less is better, and it makes it sound better. Our equipment, and whenever also we set up a showroom or at a show or whatever, we need to be able to have our equipment, and the system needs to be able to play a wide variety of different kinds of music. So the records that I picked are not necessarily the best example in any one of those categories. It's because I know them very well and how they should sound. So when I go from room to room, for instance, at a show, that I know that piano should have a little bit of an edge on those notes and not on the others, or that voice, I should be able to hear a breath here and there, or I should be able to hear the sound of the room around the vocal, or the orchestra is, I can get the full stereo imaging front, back, left, and right from that piece, and so on. That's basically why those records are chosen. We're continuing to make equipment, and we have dealers. I mean, we're continuing. We're moving forward. We're doing the same as we have done in the past. And as far as new products, we almost have all sorts of things in the works. There's a lot of things in R&D that I design the electronic part of it, and then Carolyn comes in. But that are not necessarily a good idea to bring to market. So ideas are one thing. It's kind of like just because you can doesn't mean you should. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it.